say that, but I think it.
Yeah.
Um, but then I've met adults who said, you know, I have had such a hard time. I have difficulty planning. I just have trouble getting my act together and staying focused. I have to make an enormous effort. Thank God I went into the Marine Corps and they made me do these things, and that was helpful. But man, I shouldn't have done that when I was a kid. So it's a real thing.
Yeah.
Now, with alcohol and drugs, I think the best you can do is to really get real with the kid and tell them what you want from them, and that when they get into their mid-20s, their brain development is over. And so drinking moderately is probably fine.
Yeah.
And they're not, you know, even if they get high in the mid-20s, the next day they're not going to do brain damage. That's impossible now. It's over. The window's closed.
But I guess the chances of you, if you haven't really explored it and abused it in your teens, you're not really going to be necessarily the kind of person who would abuse it as an adult.
Right.
Because the habit isn't there and the focuses are different.
Yeah. Well, it is possible to become an alcoholic addict after being a teetotaler all during your youth. Yeah. It is possible, but the habits, you're right. Those habits, everything we do repeatedly becomes a habit.
Yeah.
Everything is something that gets wired up there somewhere if you do it often enough. And once you have a habit, the only way to change that is to create a new habit.
Correct.
The same way, repeatedly doing a better thing.
Effort, as you said in the beginning as well.
So there's another thing that kids need to have their brains protected from, and it's excessive screen exposure.
Right.
We now know that. Let me give you the extreme example of a dangerous screen.
Right.
Okay, it's a kid who does a lot of video gaming, hour or two every day, many hours on the weekend with his buddies, with first-person shooter action video games.
Right.
Where they're killing people virtually in the game to earn another level. And I'll say this, if a kid has to play video games for an hour a day instead of going out and doing something with the guys outdoors or going with the family out in the country, he's addicted.
Okay.
And the addiction happens because the brain doesn't really know the difference between something happening in the real world and something happening on a screen in front of them. So the bigger the screen, the more colorful it is, the more sound, the more real it seems. The brain really thinks, okay, fine, this is exciting and dangerous. And so the adrenaline starts pumping and the cortisol gets into the bloodstream. And all of this helps them cope with a dangerous situation.
Right.
Now, the adrenaline subsides very quickly. 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and you're calm again. Mm-hmm. Cortisol stays in the brain for much, much longer. Now, it'll subside too, but what if you're not like a hunter back into the caveman days where they would go out and have to deal with a beast, kill the beast and bring it back? Well, all that happens in about 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And then they bring it back. I mean, they're sitting in wait, they ambush the beast, they bring it back. So the danger part, the exciting part only lasts 15, 20 minutes. A video game can last 2 hours or all night.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
If that happens, think about the cortisol build up there.
And day after day after day after day, that starts becoming...
Yeah. Here's what happens. Cortisol actually gets into the brain cells. And if they're there often enough and long enough, they'll kill the cell. the hippocampus is the part that sort of coordinates memory, and that's the first place the cortisol kills. It makes you, that's the first, but it also, the prefrontal cortex is affected. This has all been proven by science. So for what it's worth, I say for what it's worth because there are corporations out there who spend tens of billions of dollars on a single game so that it will sell. It's a much, much bigger business than the movie industry. Much more profitable. That's why they do it. They want a better game. And where it's headed is virtual reality.
Well, that's not far. Well, it's there. It's here, isn't it?
It's there. That's right.
Already.
Okay. And so but it's to make money. They don't care if there's damage to it's like the cigarette companies. There's all this science, all this proof. They don't care. Well, they got their own science. They got all these scientists that they pay $250,000 a year to go out and make some science, man. And so they have their own science.
Yeah.
The video people only care about making it more addictive and more exciting. So the kid will buy the next version of the game.
Yeah. And like a drug, it has to keep getting more and more exciting. Right. So the edge and the danger is more every time as well.
So this is the worst case. These first-person shooter action video games, the most addictive games there are, and they're the most damaging. And not only that, imagine, talk about patterns and habits being developed in the brain. Imagine that being shooting people on screen.
Well, why not just go out and shoot people in the street?
Well, it could lead to that, or perhaps it doesn't.
Yeah. But
I wouldn't want my child to have their brain filled with those images and thinking that it's fun, or that someone, blood splatters everywhere. So what? That's not what I want them experiencing. I don't want them remembering that. I don't want them making that a part of their memory. That's not what I want for them. Okay. And so there's that. But it's actually once you get addicted, you get too much cortisol, you get stuff happening in the brain that actually will derail the good things that you're doing to help them develop it. Yeah. So you have to protect the brain from alcohol, drugs. You have to protect the brain from excessive screen exposure. Beyond video games, there are actually some games that are actually very, very beneficial to the PFC.
Okay.
And they involve war. I mean, chess is war.
Yeah.
Right. So they have what I call 2,000-foot level strategy games about building your kingdom and defending it and going to war and things. And it all depends on your ability to strategize, think ahead, and beat your enemy. That's okay. Now, I wouldn't want to get addictive, because then you have opportunity costs that are lost. What else could they be doing besides playing Minecraft, for example?
Kicking a football.
Yeah. Or just palling around and going over to a friend's house and hanging out. That's cool. That's good. So there are educational video games. There are entertaining video games. There are thousands of video games. It's hard for a parent to get a handle on it. So stay away from those first-person shooter games. That's, to me, that's a no-no. There's no way, even in modest doses, it's a slippery slope. It could become an addiction. And I know kids who are addicted. It's affected their college careers.
Yeah.
I have a nephew who wanted to be a geologist, and that's not working, but I know he's addicted to video games.
And I suppose if we're thinking about